So hi Morse. So it's great to see you. It's an honor to conduct an interview with you, sir. So you were the first Asian and also first Korean American ambassador at large for global criminal justice under Trump administration.
Well, any ambassador at large
any ambassador
position.
at large.
So there's three different types of ambassadorships. There's country ones. That's the ones that people know the most, like the U.S. ambassador to Great Britain or something like that. There are ones for international organizations, like the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. That's also well known. The least common type of ambassadorship are these ambassadors at large. There's just like a handful of them where you apply a certain subject matter across the entire world. And so it was an honor to serve as the first Asian American ambassador at large in U.S. history.
Yeah, and because of your name, Morse Tan, when I first heard that, I knew that you were Korean American because I attend Cpac events way back, and you were there, as one of the panel.
Right.
Can you tell our audience, KCPAC audience, your parents, how their immigration story?
Yeah, sure.
Because both of your parents are Korean, right? Can you tell our audience?
Yeah, so my Korean name is Tan Hyun-myung.
Tan Hyun-myung.
Yeah,
so it's
so
a very
Tan
unique
with a T good.
Very unique last name.
Rare Korean last name.
And Hyun
Myung. So
Hyun-myung.
Wise and bright.
Hyun-myung is also a very unique name. So you have a very unique last name and a unique first name.
Right. And I was born in Seoul, Korea.
You were born
in
there.
Hongjae-dong.
Wow.
In a house that my dad built. And I was less than 2 years old when our family immigrated to the U.S. My mom's side of the family has the most common Korean last name.
Kim.
In her case, Kwangsang Kimshi, which I heard were long. My ancestors were like scholars in the king's court. In the Kwangsang Kimshi side. On my dad's side, I heard that there's actually some ties going back to North Korea, including the Pyongyang Kamsa, the governor of Pyongyang province, back when Korea was unified. And so
you come from a very royal, very high.
Well, I didn't.
Family.
I didn't hear that until I was in college. Actually, that was the first time I heard that, and that was actually the first time I heard about what was going on in North Korea. And so, but yes, I'm Korean from both sides of the family, and American citizen, and so I'm a Korean American.
Yeah. I mean, because I think a lot of our Korean American readers and viewers. They know about Young Kim, Representative Young Kim, Representative Michelle Park Steele, being elected. But I think a lot of people forgot about you and also probably the appointees like you and also Marshall E. Kelly. And I think it's time for you to advertise yourself a little bit more. And so you were Ambassador at Large, Office of Global Criminal Justice. It's kind of wordy. Can you tell our audience what that job is?
Sure. So this was the top position in the U.S. government, representing the American people and the President of the United States on mass atrocity crimes, which are genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, and seeking to bring justice in regards to that going on around the world.
So you were there for the first term. When were you appointed? Was it 2019?
So 2019 to 2021. Yeah. But 2020 was the only full year.
Okay, so the latter half of Trump administration. So Trump went through a tumultuous first term. I was a huge Trump supporter. I've been supporting Trump since actually early 2000s because I loved what he talked about when he came out as a Fox News. He was a regular for like Fox and Friends and On the Record and Hannity show. But when he went into office, I felt personally depressed because of all the weaponization of the Justice Department, even back then. And even when Trump got elected, President Obama said somehow Russia is involved. Russia got him elected. They went into that narrative, and you had Special Counsel Robert Mueller going in, and Trump having a lot of his cabinet members being betrayed. So you saw all that front seat, from front row. What was your thought? What did you think when Trump was going through these kind of hellish times?
Yeah, how could any human being be attacked so much and be so resilient, so courageous, so steadfast, so candid.
I don't think anybody else can do that except for him.
I've never seen the likes of it. I've never seen the likes of it.
Only Trump can do it.
So I have great admiration for him. I had an opportunity to handwrite a letter to him when I was in office still. I was just trying to encourage him. I was just trying to affirm him and express my genuine respect for him, which I've had throughout, before I served, while I served, and after I served. That's never changed.
Can you reveal the content of the letter that you wrote to Trump? Was it on an A4 letter that you wrote all the?
I think it was like maybe on legal pad. I forget what kind of paper I used. But I just wanted to communicate to him and encourage him in the difficult things he was going through, and that amazing fortitude that he has. I think so many of his policy decisions and decisions for as president have been, even those who were skeptical about it before, even those who questioned it before, those who thought it was wrong before, so many times he just gets vindicated time and time again. You know, whether it's like, hey, NATO, guess what? You have a threat. His name is Vladimir Putin, coming from Russia. And guess what? He might attack. You might want to chip in, say, even 3% of your GDP to support NATO. Sounds very reasonable now. And after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, it was quite prescient that you needed to chip in for your own defense.
Exactly.
And yet he was criticized so much
We
for
didn't
that.
even know that they were not paying their share
The
until Trump talked about it.
European partners were attacking him for that.
Many things. So I've been a political journalist for like a couple of decades, and many of the things that Trump talked about, we didn't even know about. You know, even the Nord Stream pipeline, we didn't know about that. The Nord Stream pipeline, we didn't know about all those kind of stuff. You know, and Trump was the one who put it on the forefront.
That's
and
right.
So it comes to show how politically very knowledgeable he is. Were you surprised about his political knowledge?
He's very smart. He's very smart. He tries to be well informed. Another thing I really admired, even when he was running in 2016, he talked more about North Korea than all the Republican Democratic candidates combined. And somehow he knew that it was important to address the North Korean situation when all these other candidates would hardly even mention it. I remember a moment during one of the Republican nominee debates where they were asking him about Iran, and he said, "Why are we talking about Iran? North Korea already has nuclear weapons." And he's been on situations like that in a really impressive way, so much earlier than other people who some of whom still don't get it in regards to things along those lines. And exiting the JCPOA in regards to Iran, I think that was a good idea. Depriving Iran of the funds that they needed when those funds were being sent back.
It's ridiculous. Actually, South Korea, some of the, like, was it $6 billion came from South Korea? Actually, and the Hamas attack happened.
Right, when this happened in the last administration, basically they would be giving them a war chest to be able to attack Israel. And if Hamas and Hezbollah are wholly owned subsidiaries of the Iranian government, then this is basically rooted in giving all these resources, a war chest in essence, to Iran. So that didn't happen during the first Trump administration. And so he sees things like this, I think, clearly and sensibly. And he's so much smarter. I've heard so many people say, "Oh, he's dumb. He's just a reality show host. He's just an entertainer." No, he's not. He's actually really smart.
I think so too. I think he's one of the smartest. And I think he's one of the best communicators that I've seen. You know, he, in my view, I think he even surpasses Ronald Reagan in a different kind of way. You know, the way he talks. You know, it's like you're in a bar with him. The way he, talks in his rallies.
He connects with mainstream.
That's just
he connects with mainstream America.
He passed through the mainstream media and touches the mainstream Americans, like you just said. So when you were his cabinet member, did you?
I was not a cabinet member.
When you were ambassador. Did you join into his summits with Kim Jong-un? Were you there or were you not there?
I was not.
That's a pity. You should because you're Korean American. I thought
I would have been honored to do so. but I was not. There was a small number of people who were. I think it was intentionally limited.
Okay.
And
You
if
should have been there instead of John Bolton.
if there's an opportunity in this current administration to be able to contribute along those lines, I would be honored to do so.
So I'm rereading what John. So I never liked John Bolton,
Yeah.
but I thought that he could be useful, like a good cop, bad cop. I think he could. I thought he could play the bad cop.
Yeah.
So John Bolton's book, the White House Memoir. I'm reading that book again, and it comes to show how he saw Trump so negatively, and how he could belittle Trump when he's elected. One, he didn't get 60 million votes,
No.
60-something million
No,
votes in
that's the
2016.
president of the United
But I just
States,
couldn't
yeah,
believe
yeah.
that these unelected bureaucrats
Appointees in
have
this
the
case,
nerve
yeah.
to
Yeah.
say, "Oh, Trump shouldn't do this. He should have done this."
Yeah.
Then why didn't he run for office?
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
just
right.
can't. Was that the mentality of the many members there under the Trump first administration?
There were those.
Because you were there, so you could.
Yeah,
You heard a lot of things.
Yeah, there were those who were trying to, in their minds, rein Trump in, keep us out of wars, things along those lines. But I think generally they misread Trump.
Because he was on top of things.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah.
Trump. What I thought was Trump. Even though as confident as he was
Yeah.
and is, and as smart as he was and is,
Yeah.
still is, I think he was a little bit nervous when he went into the White House because
Yeah.
he didn't know a lot of people.
Yeah,
So he
yeah.
decided to appoint a lot of elected, so-called, establishment members.
Yeah, yeah.
Surprisingly, there weren't,
yeah.
and even the outsider members, for instance, like Rex Tillerson,
Yeah.
he also kind of sounded like an establishment almost.
Yeah.
Do you think my assessment is correct, or do you disagree?
He knows much better who the players are
Now,
this time
yeah,
around
okay.
than he did going in the first time. He was not a swamp creature, He was there to drain the swamp,
You're
not
right.
to become a swamp creature or to put swamp creatures in his administration. So,
He didn't seem to know how powerful presidency is the first time. First term. That's just how I thought. But
and yet he did more in that one
yes,
term
Yes, he did.
than, it was stunning how much the man did. His energy level is off the charts. And it's like, his approach is like, charge on all fronts at the same time.
Does he sleep? Does he even sleep? I'm wondering.
Little.
You must
like
know.
He's like a 3-4 hour a night sleeper, and he's fine.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a God-given.
I wish
gene,
I was like that, but I don't function well if I don't get enough sleep. Unlike him, but he could sleep 3-4 hours a night and go full steam ahead. Yeah.
When he dealt with Kim Jong-un, were there some decision? There was no deal made between them, Trump and Kim Jong-un.
There
right?
was, but it was a limited deal out of the Singapore summit in terms of returning the remains of U.S. veterans.
Okay, those things. You're
in
right.
terms of
Yep.
yeah.
You're right.
So I think
Almost
I know what you're
forgot.
talking about, but and then also stopping the missile tests, which happened, stopping the anti-American propaganda, which happened, returning our citizens, which happened. So there were actually a number of accomplishments that happened, but there wasn't the grand nuclear deal, the weapons of mass
Denuclearization.
destruction. In the Hanoi portion, when Kim Jong-un said, "I will shut down the Yongbyon reactor," well, that's not offering anything.
Yeah.
Because they're already shutting it down. And on top of that, the U.S. knows all the other things that they have. And they were like going, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about? And then Kim Jong-un was like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know all this?
I remember after the deal was broken, Trump gave a press conference, and that's what he said. I think Trump said he knows every inch of what's going on in North Korea, so he can't play with him.
So Kim Jong-un was trying to snooker Trump into thinking, oh, I'll just shut down Yongbyon and you need to release all the sanctions. Well, no, sorry.
But I get the view that Trump, if you go to his Mar-a-Lago, have you ever been there?
I've not.
So there's I think one of the photos that he has right in the middle of his office there is his meeting with Kim Jong-un. So I think he does kind of pride himself as the first American leader to meet with North Korean leaders.
Yes.
Do you think there will be another summit? And this time around, do you think there will be some kind of nuclear deal? Because some media outlets, even the conservative ones and even the alternative ones, have been worried that Trump is actually calling North Korea a nuclear power. I think he kind of gave connotation of it. Well, what's your thought on that?
I don't buy that for a second.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
I mean, he was trying to denuclearize North Korea. So all of a sudden, he's going to accept that North Korea is a nuclear power? No.
Like in his speech, I think he said North Korea is a nuclear power. He kind of said it candidly.
It's a statement of fact.
Yeah, it is.
It's a statement of fact, but it's not accepting
You're right.
that fact.
Yeah. And you think he would not?
I highly doubt it, unless he had a about face, which I doubt he did. Yeah.
But you do think that he will have another summit with Kim Jong-un in his second term?
I think he will address the issue, but I think how it's addressed, I think he's going to try to figure out what's the best way to approach things.
You know, there has been some joke going around among political pundits that South Korea is becoming more and more closer to China, and North Korea, when Trump was in office, then North Korea is somehow getting closer and closer to the States. Have you heard about that joke? Because South Korea, if you look at the parliament, they are very pro-China, and like Lee Jae-myung, the Democratic Party leader, and a lot of the political apparatus has been more so pro-China than America. What's your thought on that?
Oh, that's really ironic for South Korean politicians to tilt in that direction. And it is not in the best interests of South Korea. And I think the U.S.-South Korean alliance is central for the good of South Korea. For the U.S., it's an important ally. Also for that region. And actually broader for the world too, because different things that happen in this regard can have broader implications around the world too. So I think it would be really foolish for South Korean politicians to steer things away from the U.S. And South Korean alliance, to oppose and cut out Japan, and to go in the direction of communist North Korea and the Chinese Communist Party. Since when has that been a good idea? And so that it's I think potentially very dangerous for South Korea to go in that direction, just thinking about even what's best for South Korea, but also for the alliance, also for the region, and also for the world.
And if you look at Trump, even I think way back, like in the 80s, he talked about Japan taking advantage of America and Japan becoming an economic superpower in a way. And China, he's been sounding the alarm about China's economic growth, while America has been diminishing their power. And he has been announcing a lot of tariffs to Canada, Mexico, and even China. Do you think, and even to South Korea too, but do you think if you look at the cabinet members of Trump administration term 2, it seems like he will do something about China economically.
Oh, for sure.
And I think he will fulfill his promise like he already did with a lot of his election pledges. Do you think South Korea might reap the benefit out of all this?
If South Korea is wise, then yes. But if South Korea is trying to harm the relationship with the U.S., that would not be smart or wise at all.
We talked about the media. So the Korean legacy media have been very anti-Trump. So if you look at Trump's approval rating, I think prior to the election, his approval rating was the lowest among all the surveyed nations, was 8%. And if you look at the media has been more anti-Trump than the mainstream media here. That's my assessment, because I read both. So a lot of Korean big corporations like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, Kia, all these big time corporations, they have donated tons of money to Kamala Harris, not to Trump. It's like the ratio is like 95% to 99%. And I'm wondering whether Trump knows about this, and if he does, why would he be so nice to the Korean corporations all of a sudden? Because I feel like the Korean media did such a bad job, and they have irreparably, so far not yet, but they have damaged Korean corporations' relationship with Trump administration. So that doesn't this give more ammunition to Trump administration to put tariffs into South Korea in the first place? What's your assessment?
Yeah, so first of all, I don't agree with what those companies have done.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see the huge amounts of money that Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and Meta was giving to the Harris campaign. And then all of a sudden, after Trump is elected, he's like, oh, here's a bit for you.
And he gave $25 million to the library, something, but anyway.
Yeah, and so that was also happening with U.S. corporations as well.
Exactly.
And the bulk of the billionaires in America, they were also giving to the Harris campaign too, more than to the Trump campaign. So I think Trump has been gracious in that he met with Zuckerberg, right?
He did.
And invited him over and is meeting with the other tech CEOs, Apple,
Cook, Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, and even Bill Gates, and such. So, so it's not. Maybe it's not too late for these Korean companies to maybe change their tune, if they're willing to do that. And Trump has sort of been remarkable in embracing those who were formerly against him and who are now for him.
Right.
J.D. Vance was one of them.
Exactly.
Tulsi Gabbard
was very anti-Trump.
Tulsi Gabbard voted to impeach Trump both times.
You're right. And he's very forgiving. You're right. People don't, because media don't talk about it. Even the alternative media and the conservative side don't even talk about it that much about it. Yeah.
So it's kind of impressive, actually, in a way, that he's able to embrace and bring on board people who were formerly opposed to him in some ways that were real, even impeaching, even to impeach him.
Yeah.
And so he's, in a sense, bigger than that, and is able to do that in a way that I think a lot of people don't understand or appreciate, or things along those lines. But in a sense, a testimonial of someone who was formerly against you can be a pretty powerful thing.
Yes.
And I think that really helped him to get elected as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's surprisingly forgiving after listening to all the lists that you mentioned. So as an ambassador, you specialize in crimes against humanity. A lot of conservatives were very concerned about it, not just on the southern border, but even when I read the WikiLeaks stories, there has been very suspicious content that has been coming out. But because of the power of the mainstream media, they were considered like conspiracy theory and all that. Can you kind of elaborate some of the things that you accomplished and you worked on to battle against these heinous crimes?
Yeah. So on the final day of the administration, we got across the finish line the mass atrocity determinations against the Chinese Communist Party for genocide and crimes against humanity.
The Uyghur.
In Xinjiang province against Uyghurs and other Turkic minorities there. But I'll tell you, it's broader than that.
Organ harvesting and stuff like that.
Yes, the Tibetans and the Christians and the Falun Gong and anyone who's not a Han Chinese communist ethno-nationalist is less than under the Chinese Communist Party. And so it's broader than that. I was pleased to be able to speak out against some of the atrocities that were going on in Nigeria. And actually, President Trump did too. And I conveyed to Secretary Pompeo, who conveyed to President Trump, that his speaking out actually caused a decrease in the atrocities in Nigeria. But I denounced Boko Haram's kidnapping of junior high school boys, hundreds of them, before the Tom Lantos Commission of Congress. And later that same day, all of the junior high boys were released from being kidnapped.
That's just an amazing story. So you were one of the few loyalists under the Trump administration. He got betrayed by a lot of people. do you expect yourself joining in the second Trump second
I would
term?
be honored to. I have been loyal, and therefore I would be honored and would love to join forces with him and to serve under his leadership and in his administration. That would be a tremendous honor to be able to do so again.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for for this interview.
Sure.
I learned a lot.
Sure.
Thank you.